Well, now we have a bit of tape that we taped at Belmont. Actually, we went over to visit Bob the other morning, doing some gate schooling. And if we run that tape, we could talk a little bit about what people don't see at Belmont Park. Basically, and here we go. Here's the gate school, Bob. And it's one of the. It was a typical morning. How many horses do you have?
On that morning, we schooled about 50 head, I guess, of which probably 30 were 2-year-olds, young horses just learning about the gate.
Now, when does a horse actually have to? Here's a horse in the gate. When do you start schooling a horse for the gate?
Well, 2-year-olds begin to arrive in New York usually in April, and they'll arrive at the racetrack with a certain amount of education in the starting gate, and at that point we'll try to ascertain what in fact they do know and gradually build onto that to produce a racehorse.
Right. There seems to be a lot of petting, a lot of calming.
You talked about it earlier about the atmosphere at the track, and that's basically what we try to establish at the schooling gate in the morning. It's a very settled, quiet atmosphere. We want to make it as non-traumatic as possible for the horse. We want it all to be positive. We don't want to give them any kind of a negative experience that makes them reluctant to come back the next time. Racing in and of itself is pretty exciting to a racehorse. We try not to make the learning process any more exciting than we have to.
So would you basically say that the gait itself is, I guess, the most unnatural aspect of racing for a horse?
I think it is. Just by nature, a horse is a herd animal, and their defense in the wild would be to be able to run free, to escape from something. You put them in a gate when they're in a frightened state, and you've taken their defenses away. So you're asking a lot of them to be convinced to go into a starting gate.
Right. Now, in this particular, as I remember the sequence, the horse was backing out. You guys were backing the horse out of the gate. Didn't want to go in, and then right at the end of this part, you could see you with your arms out behind it, kind of snapping your fingers. What's that about?
Basically, what I'm doing is trying to create a body language that's more aggressive for the horse. I'm trying to let him know without being forceful that by posing myself in a certain way that he needs to do something I'm asking him to do. I'm trying to make myself aggressive in my stance so that he'll walk away from me. It's a combined effort with the fellow that's leading him and myself behind him, encouraging him, and you're trying to work as a team to funnel his attention to the task you're trying to get him to accomplish.
Now, do you end up paying extra attention to a horse that, like, after they've gone through the gate school, how long is it before they actually run in a race?
Well, if it's his first visit to a starting gate, it'll probably take him about 10 to 12 visits to develop enough ability to race competitively. And each horse is treated individually. They all have their own personalities, and you need to kind of determine, according to the horse, whether to advance with them or whether to back down a little bit. There are some settling steps that we'll take along the way if we feel the horse is getting too excited, and that will delay his debut.
Now, you take a lot of, I notice you take a lot of notes. Of course, you take down the horse's name, and you take down notes. And what kind of things are you looking for from a horse?
Well, to give you an idea, on an average year in New York, we'll school approximately 12,000 horses into the starting gate. We have 3 gates available for schooling, and that means 3 different locations. So the notes that we take are important so that should a horse go to one of our other gates, the person in charge there can review the notes and continue the schooling process from the point that it was left off. The notes are quite involved, although they're in a shorthand. They tell us a lot about how the horse acted that day and what best to do the next time he arrives at the gate.
Now, here's the view of the gate that the jockeys often see. That's an awfully small space to be in with a kind of a big animal.
Yeah, that's why I really appreciate the gate crew we have in New York. You know, Bob and his guys.
Right.
They're amazing. I've been a lot of places, and the communication that they have with the jockeys here is amazing. That usually guys discount when you say something about a horse. Right. You go out of town someplace, you know, maybe we need to do something different, or I want to handle them a certain way, and they kind of tend to disregard what you have to say. Here, there's such an open dialogue, and everything's about patience and getting the horse to cooperate and do it the right way. You can't say enough about the job they do. I mean, look, you got a 1,000-pound animal in that little space, and they do a tremendous job.
Do you get banged around pretty good in there, Phil?
Sometimes you do, you know, depending on the horse. But these guys do a great job. You know, they really protect you.
Right, right. So now, these particular horses we're seeing now, I think they were first-timers, the trainers. Basically, the trainer comes with the horses in the morning and tells you what they want it to be schooled?
They do, and that's unique in American racing. And in European and racing in the Far East, the trainer is responsible for the entire sequence of gate schooling. They might in fact have their own gate. In American racing, the trainer brings the horse up and literally turns him over to the assistant starters and the starter with communication, of course, letting you know what they know and what he might know about the horse, or the personality problems or whatnot. And from that point on, they're putting their horse in your hands. So as Richie mentioned, communication before, and that's really the name of the game out there, both with the horse and with the trainer and everyone involved.